You're listening to the voices of the Occultinarium. Keep your friends close and your diamonds closer. Welcome
to tonight's episode of the Occultinarium. We are the voices of the Occultinarium, and your hosts are
Luigi,
Adriana,
Amelie,
and Lynn. Great chaos reigns once more. Tonight we wanted to kick off our tarot episodes. We were long discussing on actually talking more about tarot in more specifically rather than general, since we are all people who have originally connected through tarot, but have very little episodes about it so far. But it had always been the plan that we will talk about each card and how they connect and so on. And of course, everybody tends to do it orderly. They start with the aces, or they start with the mages, and they just go down the order. We are just not that.
we just not like that.
We do not conform like
not
that.
Maybe we'll. Yes. Well, we might figure out after this episode, after a few, that we actually want some sort of order. But we had this idea of starting with the card that is currently the decan we are in. So if you look at the calendar, we are recording on the 7th of June, 2026. So if you're looking then at the Decanic wheel, can we call it Decanic wheel? Like the
Yeah.
Yes, that's the right word, right? It is a wheel.
It is a wheel. Wheels will come up very often.
Yes, beautiful. Exactly. That's the wheel. And that's Adriana holding up. And for our current date, that would put us in the second decan of Gemini. And the second decan of Gemini, in the middle of it, that is the beautiful Nine of Swords, as Luigi is holding up. And we will be discussing both the Smith and the Thoth and our thoughts and experiences around it. We are in the Swords, so it's airy. So it's a lot about thoughts and conflict.
I'm sure that most people would not want to start with this card because it's probably not something that is always seen as the most positive.
You're saying that very carefully, but I would actually say straight out that most people do not like the Nine of Swords because at first glance, it's not positive at all.
I say it very carefully because, I mean, in my mind, I'm just like, there is positives. But I think most people wouldn't like, I mean, it's just something you have to go through, which is unpleasant. So
it's unpleasant at first. I mean, if we're looking at the Smith, you're right, we're having this person sitting on a bed and the 9 swords above them. Unending, continuing beyond the scene. This is not a person having a good time. Like, this is not a person waking up and being like, this was the best dream of my life. I'm ready for today. No, I don't think so. And if you're looking at the Thoth, we're having an image of 9 bloody, dripping swords, dripping both with blood and poison. It's quite aggressive and very... I don't remember who said that, but probably Joe Monteleone. I don't know. But it's very Game of Thrones, Red Wedding kind of card. What happened there, that is pretty much that card. And nobody watching Game of Thrones, other than, I think, psychopaths, enjoyed that episode very much.
The wedding. I haven't seen all Game of Thrones, but I've seen the wedding episode, yes.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. All right. That's the kickoff, I suppose. Where do you want to start? We'll start with the Smith version, right?
Yeah, let's.
Luigi, if you want to share some of your thoughts, you seemed eager to talk about it.
So I'm quite eager to share the analysis of the Nine of Swords. I want to give Adriana the opportunity, if she's willing to share her knowledge of the key divinatory meanings and messages and so forth.
So it's not... Well, I think that we have to start a little bit for those who are not familiar with the term decan. As I said, the wheel, the 360 degrees, are divided by the 12 Zodiac signs. And this came mainly from the Hermetic order, the Golden Dawn, so and they choose the planets that were the ruling from the Chaldean mythology, astrology. So there is a mix of different traditions, as always. The Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, integrates a lot of historical, all antique cultures. They came with this wheel where they assignate a tarot card to the zodiac signs, and the zodiac sign are divided by 3 sections, roughly for 10 days each section, that they call degrees. So 0 to 10 degrees is equivalent to the first week of the zodiac, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and finish on sign of the zodiac. They allocate to the sign of the zodiac a planet and a tarot card, the minor arcana. So it's the numbers from 2 to 10, that they're assigned to each zodiac sign. So each decan goes 10 days, 10 degrees. And also they allocate from the core cards as well. They are involved in a bigger spectrum. So for the princesses or the pages, there are 3 zodiacs, so 3 months. The kings, queens, and knights, it's funny because they have one zodiac sign, but they are not completely in one sign. They start in the last decade of one zodiac sign and catches to the second week of the following zodiac sign. So we have to interpret that and take in consideration all these relationships in order to go deeper into the emotional aspect or the deeper aspect of the Decans cards. Also, why we use Decans cards, some people use it for giving time, so the relationship of time. So when you get a card, it can indicate exactly which decan of the year it is associated with which sign, or if it's a core card, it will be related to the months that is covered for that period of time. Other people interpret the cards, giving it like a deeper emotional meaning. And in the 9 of Swords, I love that card personally. I think that is probably the most challenging and enigmatic card that you can find in tarot, because yes, it is despair, it's anxiety, it's the overthinking. If it's related to a relationship, overthink, you will doubt about your partner, you will think that you are not good enough for him, you are overthinking it, and you are processing the conversations and going back to what you said or to what he said and so on. So it's a card that is related much with your subconscious mind. More related, more towards the challenges that you have at work, like the imposter syndrome or the deadlines that you have for projects, or, presentations of things that you have to do that you cannot stop. You are going to bed thinking in the problem and wake up very early in the morning, still thinking and processing and creating imaginary scenarios of what if or what can happen. So it's the card that pushes your subconscious mind at the deepest, but it's probably the card, to me, the most honest card that it is, because it forces you and pushes you to know yourself. It's the card that shows you fears, the deepest fears, despairs, all the things that you feel not confident about it, all the things that you are overthinking. And remember one thing, that this element that rules this decan is air. So it's all mind related, but also it's communication. So we had to think that it's an invitation to stop creating imaginary scenarios that are only real in your mind, that is only in your head. So how can we challenge ourselves to turn this wonderful imagination that we have, that we are creating soap operas in our head daily, and how can we transform that energy to create something positive for yourself? So instead of overthinking, to have a clarity of mind, start doubting about yourself, have anxiety and have the distress, you can transform that into have a target, focus, concentrated, right to the point, like a bullseye mentality. So yes, that is the Knight of Swords. But what we were saying about the court cards related to the Knight of Swords, particularly that we are at the end of the Knight of Swords because it started in the last 10 days of Taurus. And we are now at the end of the Knight of Swords on the 10th of June. And the Knight of Swords is very intrepid. It's like hit first and questions after, it's probably to overreacting, is think without thinking, is very fast processing and so on. And it's like a fear of failure that leads to being hyperactive, but at the same time use that energy in order for you to create new opportunities for yourself. So if we manage to challenge to master the situation, we are really in a very good shape, and it's something that we can work in our benefit more than against us. We realize sometimes that we are overthinking the situation, that we are under anxiety, that we are creating fantasies or imaginary fears about the situation. If we can stop ourselves that and say, this is my subconscious that's trying to talk to me, and I'm learning about me and saying, oh, maybe this is not, what about we use this energy to do something that it can
Yeah.
benefit me?
I mean,
So
when
to
we
me,
when
that
we
is
look at the when we look at the order, also, like, I mean, in the Eight of Swords, we still have like the lady who's not who doesn't want to see anything, right?
yes,
She's there with
the-
blindfold and everything. So if you
and,
continue this, you get
and I
into a
was,
situation very very much like that. And then if you don't listen at this point, you basically end up with a 10 where you're
yes.
dead and it's all over. So it's
But
all
then
really
it's an
connected, and it feels
invitation as
like,
well to start something new. Yeah, so
yeah. So
because
we
these Gemini people, well, I don't like it because my ex-husband is a Gemini, but I married him anyway. But Gemini is duality, it's a dichotomy. It is something that appears to be and is not, it's this thinking, overthinking, is analyzing, is very good communicators, is very mind orientated. So having the swords in there as decans is a challenge that is teaching them. It's very good to be a great communicator, to have reflection and thinking, but overthinking, can cause you your death, emotional death or mental death or whatever. That, as you say, start 8, 9, and 10 in this Gemini. And for that, we have to be careful because all of us get affected. It's not only the people who are Geminis, but all of us are passing through this process at this time of year. So
yeah,
I
you
don't know
said
what.
one thing about how it's quite honest, and I agree on that. It's like
Yes,
one of the most honest cards, and I think, the energy is quite honest. I feel like you're like in the middle of something, and it's really like you have to face it, or you won't be able to get past
yes,
it. Like it's really something that's directly, it's in your face, and you have to own up to it, or you have to look at it to be able to get through it. And I mean that is uncomfortable usually, because this tends to not be in a comfortable situation that you have to face, but something that's uncomfortable. But only through actually looking at it, and to actually feel the feelings, actually think the thoughts, then you can release it.
because that
And I
is the
think,
key. I think that you did is feeling it. I think that is what is missing in this. But it's very funny because from the 10th of June, we are in the transition between the Knight of Swords and the Queen of Cups. So it's like the one that's balancing that strong energy. It has to confront the Queen of Cups, that is all pure emotion. So I think that is fantastic how the balance, we managed to acquire that balance that bring this very mental orientated air energy with water, with the queen that start in the last decan of this Gemini sign.
So in a way,
Mm.
the mind is descending into the heart. And if you look at that from a elemental perspective, winds onto the water, winds in the sea, causing storms, which could be a beautiful image of the Nine of Swords, the stormy sea that we need to say that
That's
you're
beautiful.
sailing. It's like say that you're sailing on the stormy sea. You have to now get at the helm, master the winds, get to the eye of the storm, get beyond the danger ahead. A test of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to add something to that also, Luigi? And we could talk about the planets, the planetary rulership as well.
We should. Did you add anything from the Thoth perspective before we went into the planetary rulership, etc.?
I mean, the Thoth is maybe the link here because on the Thoth is very planetary, right? You have it
Yeah.
right on the
Okay. Let's talk
card.
about the planet.
So I think we can just weave it together. I was just gonna say that we have for decanic rulership, if you're just looking at decans, not necessarily in them, if you just, I mean, we're focusing mostly on the tarot here, but the decans are a system in themselves that the tarot is riding on. And in the decanic rulership, we always have 2 rulers for a decan, depending on what system is used. And in the system that the tarot uses, in the descending order, it is Mars that is ruling this decan with Gemini, and Gemini is the sign. Plicity order, which is the other one, it is Venus, which is very interesting because when you look at Mars and Venus, then they're on very polar opposites, and they do not easily flow together in a sense because there are 2 opposites, which for the Nine of Swords, I feel makes a lot of sense because you have these 2 opposing forces that somehow need to find common ground. It creates this push and pull thing. Like they're not very happy together in this decan, I would say. But when it works out, like if you have like Adriana also talked about Gemini and duality and all that, right? And you have different versions or different types of duality. Always, like you have the duality that is actually bringing things together and things are harmonious, and you have the kind of duality where you actually get split and where it's like very much, you're in 2 minds about something. You're very much pulled in one direction, pulled in the other direction. And there's this Mars Venus is, I mean, it's both, but
In a
normal,
way,
or I feel like, yeah.
in a way, it's a beautiful representation of the sign of the twins, isn't it? The Venusian twin, the Martial twin.
Yes. And for decanic images, which is a thing for planetary magic and decanic magic, there's a lot of images connected to the decan that have both the Martian and the Venusian in one character. So it would be kind of like that character that, that seems very Martian, like very like fierce warrior, somebody who like chops off somebody's head like without qualms and is like really like fearsome and scary, and then he turns around and goes into the garden with his children, or plays with the dogs and plays house and plays music, and it's all like woo. So you have like a personality, or like that when you want to combine these 2.
Sounds like
And
a
I think that
serial.
that's very serial killer, isn't it? Psychopath. So, I mean, like we said earlier, like the psychopath, like the episode with Game of Thrones with their red wedding.
And I guess that's what you get with the Gemini as well.
Not to backtalk them, like my grandmother, I mean, it's also like a sun sign Gemini.
My grandfather was Gemini as well.
As well, he's a Gemini.
Yes, the duality is real.
Yeah.
Duality is definitely real.
I guess we should also clarify, because we discussed about how the Knight of Swords will be the court card corresponding to the Decan of Gemini, which is something that we all 4 of us stand by. There is, however, a different school of thought where it will be the King of Swords representing those signs versus the Knights. But maybe that's something that we can have not a debate necessarily, but a discussion at a later point. But it's just for the people listening that perhaps they got, a notion of, I thought it was the king. Why are you guys talking about the knight? We are using the system where the knights are corresponding to the mutable signs of the zodiac for reason that we can explain, if not in this episode, definitely in a later one.
We still have to do this episode where we talk about knights versus kings.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
It's
and
coming.
I think like since we covered the Knight of Swords, and Adriana, you explained that beautifully. We obviously know that the elemental office of the knights being fire, but here we have the element of air. Similar in the description from Knight of Swords, Queen of Cups, so air into water. In the court card alone, you have air into fire, and one obviously feeding the other can give you like an indication of strong mental power, but what will be the shadow of the strong mental power? Perhaps the answer is obviously, isn't it, right here, like we said before. I wanted also to point out something that may generate fascination amongst the four of us because of what we know and what we studied together, but it may confuse
Mm.
the hell out of the people listening. So apologies for all the listeners that we cannot take you on this journey, but we hope
I
that we
don't think you
can
should
one day.
apologize.
No,
Thank the
just
Pisces in me
pull them
always
in.
apologizes.
No,
But
but
basically,
fire has told.
I'm noticing a few things. Obviously, there's always going to be more things to notice. But the main colors that stand out, obviously, I'm using a Radiant Smith version. So I'm also comparing it to the original version because the Radiant uses a unique color scale. But the colors that stand out, so pretending that my card is not the Radiant but the regular Smith deck, you will have like the gown of the individual being white, the hair of the individual being gray, alongside the swords being also gray against the black background.
Yes.
And obviously, if you look at the bed setting, you ideally have a blue blanket with a mix of red and yellow. What does that tell us? Is telling us of the journey across the first six Sephiroth of the Tree of Life: white, gray, black, blue, red, yellow. Kind of hidden
What?
in the Nine of Swords.
Oh.
So the outstanding colors of the Smith Nine of Swords are basically in telling us or whispering to us the journey across the first six Sephiroth of the Tree of Life. With
Yeah.
the
Wow.
white, the gray, the black, the
Exciting.
blue, the red, and the yellow.
Mm.
Particularly
Yeah.
because if you notice, the first three colors are at the upfront stage, isn't it? Like upper stage, upper background. Obviously, the color black is already a color belonging to the number 9 in correspondence to Saturn. You know, if you twist it that way. The gray not only is a color that is suitable to iron, you know, like the metal, but it's also a color corresponding to wisdom and the mind, corresponding to one of the many tools towards wisdom. And it's
But
interesting
equally,
that. Oh, go
the
on, go
number
on.
9, the number 9 corresponds to Yesod, the
Yeah.
9 Sephiroth. That is the subconscious, the belief, the foundation. So that connection
And
that we have to establish to our own reality in order to be honest to our own self. For that, I come back to the same story that to me is the most honest card that there it is, that they push you so much to shock you. But as Amelie always say, through darkness, we get the light, you know? So
yeah,
I think that,
and
yes.
that's exactly it. When when you point out the Yesodic energy of the Nine of Swords through the number, it could be another clue as to why the energy, the wisdom, the message of the Nine of Swords it's so dire because Gemini, being a mental sign, is now having to deal or come face to face with the less mental and maybe perhaps less logical aspects of existence, creating again on top of the fact that we mentioned that the rulership of the decan is Mars, so there is a whole additional component. But all of these elements, all of these ingredients can create the essence of the Nine of Swords. And I find it, when you said, Amelie, you said yourself, Adriana, you also share that like there is the light. It's interesting that the color white, is the one that the individual wears, isn't it? Like it's wearing it, almost like embodying it, almost as if telling us we are beings of light in a
But
way.
the symbolism as well in the blanket is the flower, the red flower that
The rose, yeah.
is a symbolism of life, of new beginnings, of hope or whatever. So
As
in
well as
all that
secrets.
despair, there is the purity, that subconscious aspect of yourself that is pure and genuine. And if it's raw, but you have to let it go. You have to relate it to it, to start and to reconnect to your own self.
Yeah,
If you look at the blanket, right? Because the blanket is both the roses and then we have the
the zodiac
zodiac
signs.
and planets on the blanket. So it's like whatever is weighing the person down literally while they're sleeping is just the entire universe is
Yes.
basically
Yeah.
weighing on them while they're sleeping.
Yes.
While they're also sleeping on a bed that has a carving of a fighting scene or something that seems like somebody stabbing somebody.
Yeah.
So
And they're
yeah,
all connected, isn't it? Because the
change
bed.
your bed, change your bed, man.
And they're all
You'll sleep
connected
better.
because if you think about it, like the bed is a perfect symbol, a modern symbol for Yesod, the realm of dreams, the realm of the subconscious.
Yes.
The fighting scene can be a perfect correspondence to the planet, the ruling planet Mars.
Yes.
The as well as Lynn, when you were mentioning about the relationship between Venus and Mars, you can have the martial decan rulership above and the rose representing Venus, so giving us an image again of that dual relationship.
Yeah, we could. Although the tarot cards do follow the descending order, so they're not usually taking into account the triplicity order as much. But if you're just studying the decans themselves, then you should probably
keep it on
take
Mars.
in both. Yeah. Has anybody of you ever tried to find like a particular pattern with the zodiac or what is imprinted on the, because we know that Smith didn't do things randomly, right? Yeah. So, and I'm just looking at it now because I haven't really like completely zoned in on that before with the zodiac. But I mean, there's definitely 2 Gemini. Like, I mean, I cannot see a pattern that quickly as I'm not like in HIP, but I mean, I can see 2 Pisces, I can see 2 Gemini, and then there's a Saturn. I can see a Mars. I can see the Sun and Mercury down there. But yeah. Has anybody ever seen like an actual pattern in it? Something that sticks out? No, because now we're all like,
when you mention, is anything standing out? Obviously, we know of the zodiac, not just the signs, but she threw in there some of the glyphs of the planets. I also, unless I'm imagining things, I also see, so in my card is, let's see if I can get it to you, this square over here. So second row from the bottom, second square from the right, next to in between 2 roses. That looks like the Hebrew letter Keth, corresponding to the following. Yeah, but it's because on mine, on mine is missing the bottom, because I have a Gemini glyph right here on the top. So right here on the top, I got a Gemini glyph. Whether here it was missing the bottom, and the mind could perceive the letter Keth corresponding to the coming sign of Cancer. Coming ahead, isn't it? So that is something that just came up just now.
Definitely. I found it just interesting that it doesn't really seem to follow the order of the zodiac, because we're having like Pisces, Gemini, Leo, and then we're having Virgo and Scorpio, and then we're having the Moon and Taurus, and then Capricorn, Aries, Saturn, Sagittarius, Leo? Sagittarius again? No, that's Mars. So it's like
as you describe it, what comes to mind is it's not that it makes sense. It makes sense because it's the 9 of Swords. Because all of the signs are on blue squares. Blue representing again water. And they're not following a sequence. Gemini will want to find or seek a sequence, but the heart and the emotional realm is showing there is no sequence. There is purely the ebb and flow of the oceans and the universe. So
but
creating
to me
again.
As well, when you see her, when you see her, she is denying. She doesn't want to see what's in front of her. She doesn't want to see the reality of the emotional aspect, the subconscious aspect, what is trying to tell her. She's covering her eyes in despair, probably because she is so much in her mind that she doesn't want to see what's going on or to feel it. I think it's more the fear to feel, that is what is causing her so much distress. So that's it probably. But with the Smith card, for that I like this deck because you can see every single aspect is a symbolism of something that you can go and let yourself tell your story, that it suits you with the card. To be taught doesn't say the same thing, when you see, I know Amelie and Lynn are very keen in thought card. But what do you feel, Amelie, when you see the Thoth card, the Knight of Swords, what is telling you?
Well, the Thoth card.
The 9.
Like, to me, I don't know. Yeah. To me, it's like, when you stab someone, but the stabbing has already been done, and you just like, you're in a place of thinking like, what? Not thinking, oh my God, my brain is too tired to think today.
Fair.
When you're like in a place of like thinking over a scene, almost like you're thinking over a scene, like, why did this happen? How did this happen? What could I do? Why didn't I do this? When you're like, oh, something already happened, and then you're basically going through the same scene and telling yourself, like, why? Why did this happen? Why didn't I do this? And then you have like all these scenarios of what you could do instead, or these scenarios of like you basically like build stories about things that are not really true, but it's also I find a little bit like towards yourself. It's almost like you harsh. It's harsh. You're harsh towards yourself. I feel that card as well. I just find it like it's a very like internal turmoil almost in a sense of you're kind of like hurting yourself, but obviously not intentionally. It's not like physically. It's more in the mind. But also like when I read cards, it depends of like the situations as well. The reason why I like the Thoth deck as well is because the images specifically on the minors are abstract. There's more abstract, and I find when I'm reading with the Thoth deck, I see different things. Whilst like there are different things in the Smith deck too, obviously, but they're not abstract. There is a person, and they're very relatable and very readable. Whilst with the Thoth deck, there's just a lot of like I think I guess it depends like what kind of style. Obviously, the Thoth deck has its own system in itself, but when it comes to the artwork, I quite like the fact that it's a bit abstract because for me, it really depends on how it comes up into what question. And then I feel like you can be more specific in that sense. But then talking about the actual card, you can be just like with the Smith deck, you can be more, more of a like a spreadsheet kind of system of like this is this is this, this is that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
For
me,
for
really,
me,
it really depends on the reading.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like really the the energy that or the energies that come out of the Thoth deck are very different, and they speak to me on a different level than the Smith does. And for the Nine of Swords, for example, like just looking at it. Again, we can try and find patterns with our Gemini minds. I just counted the blood drops, for example, that are dripping down from the swords. There's depending on which of the drops you count, but it's either 26 or it's 34. And if you go at the and I don't know what I just did in my mind with math or whatever, but no, it could be 17 times 2, and then the 17 would be like an 8 time. But anyway, whatever. I'm going off of like tangents with numbers right now, which is not normally my forte. That's more like a Luigi's thing. But
It's
also
funny
the 34.
that you say that because I was doing the same as you were doing.
Yes, because they were like the small drops. The outsides have small drops, so you can either count 3 drops or you can count 7 drops on the ones on the outside, and then it would get you 34 drops, and then whatever that significance is. But when I look at the card with all these swords, and I mean, it's so unpleasant to look at. Like, there's absolutely there's no way that this card I would look at and be like, oh, nice, it's a rain of blood. It's so visceral. And in a way that you really, I look at these swords and I do not want to be stabbed with them. They're blood red, they're long, they're sharp, they have serrated edges. They're not fresh swords either. They're not new swords. They have been used. There's like edges in them. So if somebody were to stab you with them and go in and out a few times, it'd be like with a serrated knife. It's really, really painful. And on top of that, you add this imagery of that there's actually also poison in the sword. So it's doing the worst possible damage it can do on a physical level if you were to be physically stabbed by those swords, right? It hurts, it goes deep, it really rips you open, and it plants poison in your body. So there's if you get stabbed, there's no way out. You have to face the consequences of it, which is probably, death if you go into the 10. But yeah. Things are happening.
I also find that the swords to me as well, that the brokenness reminds me of shards of glass. Like just shards of glass. I don't find they're necessarily made out of metal either.
Yeah,
because
they could be. Yeah, that could be. The glass shards, for some reason, it's also very much like the Gemini thing, but it's more like the the next one, the 10, when we have the sun in the Gemini, where it's basically like the sun just reflecting all everywhere, and Gemini doesn't like to be seen as much, right? So the glass would kind of make sense, but just this thing that if you're thinking these swords are being reused and they're very used, it's very much this thing about, you know, the thoughts that keep coming, the emotions that keep coming, and like circulating, and the more they keep coming, the more they do damage or hurt you. And also like the background of the card, it's like all these squiggly lines. So I feel just like really like this being like in your head and just being extremely uncomfortable and things just being completely out of order and just chaos. And there's like no way in the situation, nowhere for you to control it. Like when you're deep into that emotion or in that situation, you have no control. Yeah, you feel like it's all outside of your control. It's just painful experience.
You know what? It's very funny.
And then you
like,
take it.
I don't feel, when I'm looking at this card, I don't feel out of control, you know? That's to me.
The other thing is amazing about this card is the relationship with the major arcana, that is the Tower and the Lover. Because Bob Mars, the Tower, and Gemini, the Lover. So it's like the most explosive relationship you can have, isn't it? The Tower and the Lovers. Because it's the choice. Lovers give you the choice. No, it's a choice. After all, it's a choice to feel like that. It's a choice to go in that overthinking, you know, rabbit hole that is ego related, or making you very small, or the situation around you is completely overwhelming you. But everything is you, the creator of that. So I found amazing as well the relationship with the major arcana, the Tower, the Lover, the planet, as you were mentioning, Venus as well, and Mars, and the relationship as well with the night and the soul. So it seems that everything is too much. It's far too much. You know, it's like far too much to be handled by one person. So maybe we were feeling like that nowadays. Maybe we wake up in the middle of the night, we get exacerbated short circuit by little things. Do you feel that you are experiencing something like that? This emotional overhaul, chaotic, confronting aggression or violence?
I don't know, Luigi, I think you wanted to say something. I want you to do that before we like deviate from the actual topic.
No, I wanted to say too many things and I don't know if I'll have the chance, but
please do.
Okay, go.
Well, now I wanted to bring it back to what Lynn was talking about, like the drops of blood and the drops of allegedly poison, but I also see them as drops of gold for some reason, which could be poison, if you drink gold. I don't think it will end up very well.
Gold is actually not that bad to drink, so it depends how much, but
You got like the 26 blood drops, which obviously like it can refer back to the tetragrammaton, and that can give us a message about how important is our relationship to our higher self and our spiritual essence, whatever that spiritual essence is in each individual's life and spiritual practice. Whether I did the craziness of counting the gold drops, there are 94 of them. If you reduce the number 94, because Lynn, you were talking about a death, obviously the number 94 reduces to 13, the death card, the 13th major. But also the gematria of the number 9 is 94 as well. So that could be a not secret code so much, but again, inviting us to reflect on the power or at least the influence in this very stage of life of the number 9. And I say stage of life because it's the decan that we're currently crossing, I suppose. So yeah, like, honestly, because I went counting and I'm like, 94, what are you on about, 94? Well, 94 is the year that I was born, but I couldn't bring that. Like, I don't think it's necessarily directly at all of us 94 individuals. Just wanted to come on and have a full disclaimer. So after some digging and further observation, turns out that we have to retrieve one of my statements as the gematria for the number 94 does not actually correspond to the gematria for the number 9. I mean, it does in a gematria system that I'm not familiar with, something that I came across as the standard system, but not the one that I'm usually used to. However, The number 94, and by the way, the 94 was referring to those 94 golden drops in the Nine of Swords. That does correspond to the equivalent of the Greek gematria of the Greek word Thelema, being the spiritual movement, maybe religion if you want to call it that Aleister Crowley created. And we do know that the Thoth is obviously a creation of Crowley, or by extension, a creation of Thoth. But yeah, we just thought we would clarify that. Because we know that whenever it comes to symbolism specifically and the numbers within the symbols, they're almost never ever a coincidence. There's always a meaning behind it. So took some digging, took some fishing and casting nets, but eventually we got to a point where we can confidently say that the relevance of the number 94 can be down to the word Thelema being the essence of, or the magnum opus of Crowley's work. Yeah, and there was something else that I wanted to bring up. I guess it is again that relationship between the tower and the lovers. And in addition, if you go by the number itself, the priestess, or like I call her, the Aradia. So these three archetypes, all of them across the board, ideally of knowledge, but in a way the tower is, I suppose, knowledge that is not possible to contain for the vessel in a way, the Mars energy, the tower energy, dismantling the tangible and the boundaries to bring back spiritual prowess and force and whatnot. The knowledge of the priestess of the Aradia, the knowledge that is inside each and every one of us, that doesn't need to be communicated because it simply exists, it simply breathes. And the knowledge of the lovers, the kingdom of beauty, the kingdom of the mind being the key to open the door to the realm of beauty, possibly. Like there are all these beautiful things going on in this one card, but obviously when we pause and, for lack of better words, when we stay or limit to these two images alone, obviously most of us, depending on experience, depending on comfort and curiosity, most of us will be like, oh no, Nine of Swords, dang it. But then if you go beyond, the Nine of Swords can open a whole new set of doors for you, I suppose.
Luigi, I have a question. And in the wheels we have the dragon's head exalted. What is the dragon's head?
So that corresponds to the lunar nodes. So the north node is the dragon's head, and the south node is the dragon's tail, and each one of them represents, like the tail and the head. The tail and the south node, they represent our previous life or past life, if you will. While the north node or the head is this life.
So in this context, where this Gemini belongs to that, we're ruled by the dragon's head exalted. That means it's like, again, like a shock with the reality, isn't it? Or find you setting in the reality now.
Align your mind with the dragon's head, with the north node, so that you are living for the purpose of fulfilling the dragon's head, the north node, depending on where your north node is in your chart.
Yes. So it is reality, is the sense of the present.
Yeah.
It's a routine. It's like a ground.
So to use me as an example, my north node is in Sagittarius. So ideally, my journey, my destiny, if you will, my purpose, if you will, is to align myself with the aspects of Sagittarius. Which would be about traveling. It could be physical travel. It could be spiritual travel, learning. So always constantly learning and expanding. Expansion has to do with Sagittarius as well. Spirituality as well. No wonder that I'm currently, not just myself, but many people, and you don't have to have a North Node in Sagittarius to do magic or tarot, by the way, but no wonder that I am finding myself in this realm of magic, occultism, and spirit, having this North Node in this particular sign. So yeah, ideally you want every single day, every single action to be driven by the alignment of the North Node. And maybe that's another aspect of the Nine of Swords, like a reflection, a mirror of the amount of times that we wake up and we realize I'm not fulfilling my destiny, I'm not living my dharma, I'm not living my North Node, and causing that inner, definitely mental, possibly emotional turmoil.
Speaking of whether we're feeling the current decan or how we are experiencing it. I was just thinking that it's a span of 2 weeks we're doing it, but in the rune workshop I'm doing, we're currently working with Sol or Sovilo, which looks like a lightning bolt, which is very, very, very energetic, and it's also very hard to look away from the energy. But it works perfectly with the tower, with this lightning bolt being struck by lightning and all that. So it's there. It's there. Are there any other thoughts that you're having on beautiful Gemini minds that need to come out for
I think I
our
wanted to
discussion of the
share
Nine of
that
Swords?
I just checked, and currently Mars is in Taurus. So that's interesting because, Taurus being the sign of stability, if Mars is in that sign, you know how we may all be feeling a bit like under the weather, not from a health perspective necessarily, but just a chaotic life and whatnot. That will very much be a representation of Mars in Taurus. So no matter the discipline, no matter the intentionality, no matter the effort, Mars is rocking the boat, isn't it? It's shaking the status quo.
And also Mars it's Mars who is the planet that is the most detriment for a Taurus as well, for some Taurus. Yeah. So, or at least for me, because I'm born in because I was born during the day. So Mars is my most malefic planet.
Your kryptonite.
Yes, my kryptonite.
I am
making peace with Saturn.
I am Taurus as well, but I feel very mellow. I think what is fascinating to me is probably the past 2 weeks. It has been more a time to stop thinking. I want to declutter my mind, like trying to not think. It's having moments that of forget everything. So it's like the cleaning and clearing things, and as like an attitude, I don't care about anything. So yes, I am groovy.
And what you're describing, Adriana, what you're
Yes.
describing could be the essence of the element of the swords, the element of Gemini, the element of the Nine of Swords, the Fool, the element of air. So this idea that we're not supposed to, because that's maybe the wrong term, but the potential that we possess is for the freedom of the Fool. And I guess another thing to consider about the wheel of the Decans, something that can help us, not just the four of us, but even anybody who's listening. We need to think about how every single season, every single 3 months of our calendar is ruled by an ace as well as by a princess or a page, if you will, meaning that the foundation of what we work with is rooted in potential and possibility and infinity. And obviously, the rulership of the particular ace of this season is still the ace of pentacles or the ace of discs. So physical opportunities maybe, but opportunities nonetheless. So if we were to align ourselves with that mind frame, like we are walking on the foundation of 1, the air element, the energy of the Fool, and 2, the energy of the aces, as well as the princesses or pages, which is in this case the ace of pentacles. So the generosity and the infinite possibilities of Mother Earth or the Earth itself.
Yes, that's how it has felt lately. Like there is no issues, no problem. There is nothing there. And so, yes, I have been feel like in a cloud, funny enough. So, yeah, to me, it has been that effect.
For me, it's been a bit of a wild ride, and I know that we said this previously that one should not scare oneself if you get a bad card, right? But I mean, my card for this month is 5 of Cups, and then during the full moon, I got 8 of Swords. So I'm kind of like working through these energies, and every single time, I mean, today, like there's a lot of like frustrations, but I do try to think about it, not in a way of like, oh yeah, it's because of this card, it's because it's happening because I drew this card. That's not the case, because that one should never think like that. Just because I drew a card, this is why it's happening, which is not the case. But it's really interesting when you know that you're in this space and something bad happens, or you're having a bad day, or you may be sitting there and thinking, or blaming yourself for things, overthinking. You remember that these are the energies that you're working with. So you're like, actually, maybe I should stop overthinking because it might just be that. Like, oh, actually, things might not, it kind of like makes you remember that it's not the end of the world, or it's okay to get frustrated, or it's like a journey that you have to do to get to
Mhm.
point. So you don't see it as something that like a misery that you're stuck in. It's kind of like it pushes you. It's like a journey. So you have to kind of like push yourself through. Like Luigi said as well, like if you're like the person is wearing the white robe because like you yourself, you're the answer to whatever the problem is up here.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's important, specifically with these difficult cards, because I think a lot of people find swords difficult as suits in general. And I know a lot of people see like if you don't read cards and you have a reading and you see these images, you get so scared. I think a lot of people do get very scared. It's not there to scare you, but it's there to make you think maybe in a different way.
Well, they're
Because
definitely not there to cuddle you, I think. So you can say that.
no, I mean, like I said, and you said that you find this chaotic and stuff. I actually don't, but I think it's because my brain is really weird, like in a sense of like if there's something that is uncomfortable or very chaotic or something that is just like go crazy, right? My initial instinct is to like just stay calm and focus. And I feel like with this card, I get so focused. It's almost like I want to sort things. I want to put like the golden drops to one side, the red drops to one side. Here are the swords, and here are the black lines. And the black lines, I see them as lines. I don't see them as just all over the place. It's just I feel like I can find a place to them, but it's almost like you take a box of crayons and you accidentally knock them over. You just have to put the crayons back into the box, but it's that you're in the stage of putting them back in the box, which can be very frustrating.
I have another question. So what can we expect for next week from the 10th of June? Is the 10 of Swords and the Queen of Cups. It will be worse than where we're living right now. What
Nothing's.
when you see that 10 of Swords and Queen of Cups, what is obviously is not for us to
Let's pull up 10 of Swords, shall we?
It's not that, as you say, Amelie, it's not because we draw a card we have to suggest ourselves that things has to happen, isn't it? If the combination Knight of Swords and the Knight has caused us the like shaking and reencounter with the subconscious, the 10 of Swords is even more dramatic, and the combination with the Queen of Cups, that it will be like the cool card that will rule this period that is coming. What can we expect from?
Well, on the upside, the thing is that when we're looking at the the 9 of Swords, when you're looking at the 9 of Swords and we're having all these, like the image of the swords that aren't ending, and we're in this position where we think like our turmoil will never end and we don't know how to get out of it. With the 10, it's actually ended. So although it has been maybe painful, but it's actually over, the sun rises, the cycle is over or is ending and a new one can begin and it's all good. And like we're at this point where we're like, okay, now we can put that behind us and the next thing comes. Because this person, although he's been stabbed in the back, he's quite peaceful. He's made his mind. He's made up, he's made his peace with it. But you have to, I guess, let go and fall first. Yeah, and then we can start up a new cycle. And for the Queen of Cups, I mean, that would be her. This Decanic basically would be her shadow side. So when she's not very happy. Then there's just more that kind of energy and the feeling, and that's what she's struggling with, like this kind of energy. I guess a very, very very direct, unmistakable, direct, inevitable end for somebody who's very cuppy and very like just feeling and emotions. That is probably very difficult. That's a very difficult thing to be in.
But I think that the planet that will rule that is the sun, isn't it, Luigi, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, that is Sun in Gemini. That is correct.
The sun.
Yeah.
Sun in Gemini.
But also, Also, when you look at the nine of swords, so if you look at the swords, they basically intertwine, so they kind of locked there. So if that's your mind, you kind of locked and focused on it, and you can't get away from whatever it is that you're thinking about and all these thoughts. Whereas here, maybe you're dead, but at least all the swords are free. You can move them, you can remove them, you can construct them, you can now think, you can now actually act because they're not locked in position.
Yeah.
So I find that quite freeing.
So we can say this is probably the climax, the apex of the exacerbation of the subconscious that is coming and down. It's like a new dawn. It will come and begin.
Yes.
Maybe this card is also about like trying to find the solution as well, trying to find a solution, which is very difficult if you're thinking in like a circle almost, if thinking in one kind of way, one direction. It's very difficult when you focus on one thing and you're trying to find a solution, because it's very difficult to see things in a different way. And I feel like this freezes. Obviously, we've gone through all the trials and, you know, it has not been easy, but it's almost like, you know, when you die, it's like a rebirth again. So you can kind of construct things.
As I can see it, we are on the top of the apex of fighting, and then is the process of surrender. I think so.
I would say that. Okay. One last thing before we end this episode, Luigi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but as a final query about the Nine of Swords, do you have a song that you associate to the Nine of Swords?
Painted Black? No, that was very spontaneous. I didn't actually say that was very by myself. Maybe we're making a soundtrack.
The Next Right Thing, which is a song from the soundtrack of Frozen 2. That's a very Nine of Swords song if you want to go and listen to that one.
Okay. We're going to make a playlist. We're going to make a tarot playlist now, I guess. That's our next thing.
Maybe you just started something.
I'm going to set one. Okay, well, thanks, guys, for checking in with our episode tonight. As always, you can just like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what your experiences is with this Nine of Swords, or if you felt particularly Nine of Swordsy, or how you approached the card.
Are you scared of it?
Are you scared of it? Buy us a coffee if you like, and check out our handles below if you'd like to get in touch or check us out behind the scenes. Well, thanks for tonight. See you in the next wormhole. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
So,
we are the voices of the Occultinarium. Welcome to the rabbit holes.